My sister and her fiancé lived off me for 3 years, but on Dad's birthday I discovered their dark secret, and what I did next changed everything. It all started about 3 years ago. At the time, Emma and Jared, her fiancé, were having a hard time financially. They were drowning in debt, and I could tell they were too proud to ask for help. I had just gotten a job teaching high school. The pay wasn't great, but I wasn't married, I didn't have any kids, and I figured I could afford it. I mean, what are siblings for, right? I told them I'd help them out for a while until they got back on their feet. They were grateful, or so I thought. But the temporary arrangement dragged on and on. 1 month turned into 6, 6 turned into a year, and suddenly, it was 3 years of sending money every month without fail. I adjusted my entire lifestyle around it, no big purchases, no vacations, just living frugally to keep them afloat. Still, I didn't complain. I knew I was doing the right thing. Family first, always. Then, the wedding announcement came. They were finally getting married after all these years, and I thought, okay, this is a turning point. I secretly hoped they'd tell me they didn't need my help anymore, but instead, Emma called me one day and asked if I could help with her wedding expenses. I'll never forget that call. I paused for a long time before telling her, "No, Emma, I already send you $800 a month. I can't do more than that." She became silent. I don't know what she expected me to say, but I had to draw the line somewhere. Fast forward 2 months to my father's birthday. We had a big family reunion at Grandma's house. It was the usual mess, tons of food, kids running around, people arguing about whose barbecue sauce was better. Emma and Jared showed up, looking like they didn't have a care in the world. We were all in good spirits, sharing drinks, talking about old family stories. Everything seemed normal. Toward the end of the evening, my grandmother came over and touched my arm. "Brian, can we talk outside for a minute?" she asked quietly. I didn't think much of it. Grandma's known for having little heart-to-hearts. Sometimes it's life advice, sometimes just an encouraging word. I figured maybe she was trying to nudge me about settling down. She always asked when I was going to meet a nice girl and start a family. We stepped out onto the porch where it was quieter. She looked around to make sure no one was within earshot. Then she said something that hit me like a punch in the gut. "They made fun of you," she said in a low voice. "Who?" I asked, frowning. "Emma and Jared. They laughed behind your back," she said. "They think you're stuck in life. That you'll never have a family of your own, that you're wasting your time trying to help them. They joke about how much you sacrifice while you live alone and struggle to be a teacher." I felt a knot in my chest. I couldn't believe it. I had sacrificed so much for them, and this was how they saw me, some kind of loser to be pitied and laughed at. I stood there in silence, absorbing her words. Grandma looked at me with sad, knowing eyes. "Brian, you're a good man," she said softly, "but you don't have to let them treat you like this. They're taking advantage of your goodness." I nodded, still stunned. What was I supposed to do with this information? Confront them in front of everyone and ruin the evening? No, I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me rattled. Instead, I went back inside, put on a smile, and acted as if nothing was wrong. I even clinked glasses with Jared as we toasted Dad's birthday. But inside, everything had changed. I knew I couldn't live like this anymore. They thought I was a joke? Fine. Let's see how funny things get when the money stops coming in. I wasn't going to lose my cool. I'd play it smart, keep things classy, but they were about to learn that I wasn't a pushover. The morning after Dad's birthday party, I woke up early, still thinking about what Grandma had said. Part of me wanted to call Emma right away and confront her, but I decided against it. I needed time to think. Instead, I went through my usual routine: coffee, lesson plans, grading papers, business as usual. About a week later, I got a call from Emma. "Hey Brian, just checking in," she said, all cheerful like nothing was wrong. "Hey," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. She started rambling on about wedding plans, flowers, guest lists, some problem with the caterer. I let her talk for a while, then she casually brought up money. "Oh, and Jared was wondering if you could send this month's rent a little early. We have a few things coming up." I had to force myself not to laugh. "Yeah, about that. I'm actually going through some financial stuff myself," I said. "I won't be able to send the money this month." There was a pause. "Wait, you mean just this month, right? You'll still help us after that?" "I don't know, Emma. I've been helping for 3 years. I might need to focus on my own situation for a while." She was silent for a moment, and then I heard her voice tighten. "Brian, are you serious? We're counting on this money." "Yeah, well, I was counting on my family not laughing behind my back." There was another long silence. I didn't elaborate, and she didn't ask what I meant. Instead, she gave a stiff okay and quickly ended the call. That was the beginning of the fallout. 2 weeks passed and I didn't hear from Emma again, but I knew something was brewing. Then one night, my mom called me out of the blue. "Brian, I just talked to Emma," she began, and I could tell she wasn't happy. "She says you stopped helping her with her bills. What's going on?" I sighed. "Mom, I've been sending them $800 a month for 3 years. It's not like I owe them anything. I have my own life to deal with." "Well, yeah, but they're family, and Emma said you've been acting distant. Did she also mention that they've been making fun of me behind my back?" I shot back. That shut her up for a second. "What are you talking about?" I told her what Grandma had said. For a moment, there was nothing but stunned silence on the other end. Finally, she spoke again, her voice softer. "Brian, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. You've done more for them than anyone could have expected when they treat you like this. I understand why you're upset." It was a relief to hear her say that, but I knew things were about to get ugly. Sure enough, a few days later, Jared called me out of the blue. "Hey, Brian," he said, his tone forced and polite. "Emma's really upset. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding." "Is that right?" I said, keeping my cool. "Yeah, man, I don't know where you're getting these ideas, but we've never said anything bad about you. You've been great to us." "Oh, so Grandma just made that up?" I asked bluntly. Jared stammered for a second. "Look, if she said something, it was probably twisted. You know how old people can exaggerate. I didn't buy it for a second." "You know what, Jared? Let's not pretend. I'm done with the money. You guys are on your own. I hope the wedding goes well." I hung up before he could argue. But the real kicker came a few days later when I got a call from Grandma herself. "Brian, honey, can you come over? I have something to show you," she said. Curious, I went over to her house. She led me into her study and handed me an old family photo album. "I was going through some things and found these," she said with a small smile. I flipped through the pages and stopped at a series of old photos of me, Emma, and Jared as kids. But then my eyes caught something unexpected, a letter tucked between the pages. It was dated over 20 years ago, before I was even born. "Grandma, what is this?" I asked, pulling it out. "Read it," she said softly. The letter was from my late grandfather, and it mentioned a secret trust fund he'd set up for his grandchildren, to be divided equally. It said, "Unless one is found to be abusing the family bond." "Emma and Jared don't know about this," Grandma said quietly, "but I think you should." I sat back, stunned. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about setting boundaries and maybe, just maybe, karma was about to catch up with them. After Grandma showed me the letter, I had a lot to think about. There was a trust fund that my late grandfather had set up for all of us, but she didn't go into detail about how much money was in it. She made it clear that no one else in the family knew. Not Emma, not Jared, not even my parents. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked her. Grandma gave me a knowing look. "Because I want you to understand something. You're not the failure they make you out to be. You've worked hard, sacrificed for others, and shown more integrity than most people ever would. This fund, it was meant to reward people like you." I nodded slowly, taking in her words. I didn't want to rush into anything with this new information, but it felt good to know that I had some hidden leverage. Over the next week, the drama escalated. I began to hear through the family grapevine that Emma and Jared were panicking. I guess cutting off their monthly allowance had hit them harder than I thought. Jared's hours at work had been cut, and Emma was having trouble paying some of the wedding vendors. I thought they'd get by, but instead they started trying to guilt other family members into giving them money. It backfired spectacularly. My mom mentioned to one of her sisters that I'd been supporting Emma and Jared financially for years. Word spread quickly, and soon everyone in the family knew. My Aunt Laura, who doesn't hold back, apparently tore into Emma at a family gathering I wasn't even at. "You let Brian pay your bills for 3 years, and now you're playing the victim? Are you serious?" she reportedly yelled. Emma called me afterwards, furious. "What the hell, Brian? Did you tell everyone about the money?" "No," I said calmly. "I only told Mom. You brought this on yourself. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that is?" she hissed. "Emma, I think you have bigger problems than embarrassment," I said. "Maybe take a look in the mirror and ask yourself why you thought it was okay to treat me like a joke." She didn't have an answer. I thought that would be the end of it. But Jared decided to escalate things. He must have been desperate because he actually showed up unannounced at my school one afternoon. He waited for me in the parking lot. "Brian, we need to talk," he said, trying to sound calm but clearly seething underneath. "About what?" I asked, crossing my arms. "Look, man, Emma's been crying nonstop. People are turning against us. We just want to make things right," he said. Oh, you want to make things right now, after 3 years of taking my money and laughing behind my back? I shook my head. No thanks, Jared. I'm done being your safety net. His face flushed. You act like we wanted to hurt you. It wasn't like that. Then how was it, Jared? I interrupted. Explain to me how mocking someone who helped you isn't meant to hurt them. He didn't have a good answer. Instead, he mumbled something about how it was all a misunderstanding and stormed off. Later that night, I got a call from my father. He rarely gets involved in drama, so I knew this was serious. Brian, he said, I had a long talk with Emma and Jared. They're struggling right now, but they regret the way they treated you. That's nice, I said flatly, but I'm not interested in fixing things right now. They need to work out their own problems. Dad sighed. Look, I'm not saying you're wrong. You've been more than generous, but maybe it's time to sit down and have a real talk with them, clear the air. I thought for a moment. I'll think about it, I finally said. But deep down, I wasn't in a forgiving mood. They had used me for years. They'd have to prove they deserved a second chance, and I wasn't going to make it easy for them. About a week after my dad's call, I got an invitation, handwritten, which was weird. It was from Emma. She wanted me to meet her and Jared at a coffee shop near their house for what she called a family meeting. I debated whether to go, but curiosity got the better of me. I figured I'd hear them out, even though I wasn't expecting much. The cafe was almost empty when I arrived. Emma and Jared were already there, looking a little too rehearsed. Emma had that fake smile plastered on her face, and Jared was fidgeting with his phone. Hey, thanks for coming, Emma said as I sat down. Sure. What's this about? I asked, keeping it short. Emma took a deep breath. Look, we just want to apologize. We shouldn't have talked about you like that. It was wrong, and we're really sorry. Jared nodded and chimed in. We were stressed out and made some bad jokes. We didn't mean any of it, seriously. I sat back and studied them. It all felt too smooth, too scripted. Okay, I said. But let me ask you something. If Grandma hadn't told me, would you have ever apologized? They froze for a second. Emma looked at Jared, who quickly spoke up. Of course we would have, eventually. I chuckled. Right, sure. They shifted uncomfortably, and that's when Emma dropped the real reason for the meeting. Brian, we need a favor, she said carefully. There it was. I almost laughed out loud. Let me guess, you need money. Not exactly, Emma said hesitantly. We need you to co-sign a loan for us. I stared at her as if she'd grown a second head. Are you serious? We've hit a rough patch, Jared jumped in. We just need some help refinancing the house. If you co-sign, we'll get a better rate and we can do the rest. You wouldn't have to pay anything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You've got to be kidding me, I said. You think I'm going to put my name on a loan for you after everything that's happened? Are you even listening to yourselves right now? Emma's face flushed. We're not trying to take advantage of you. We're trying to make things right. I shook my head in disbelief. You don't fix things by asking for more handouts. You fix things by taking responsibility for your own lives. Jared slammed his hand down on the table. You're being unreasonable, Brian. We're family, I laughed bitterly. Exactly, and family doesn't treat each other like dirt. You're on your own. I got up, threw a few dollars on the table for my coffee, and walked out without another word. A few days later, the unexpected bombshell dropped. Grandma called me, sounding shaken. Brian, you need to come over right away. It's important, she said. When I arrived at her house, she handed me an envelope with my name on it. Inside was a letter from the bank about the trust fund. Apparently, Emma and Jared had somehow gotten wind of it and were trying to claim a larger share, arguing that I had withheld family assets. They went to a lawyer, Grandma said, her voice quivering with anger. They say you hid the trust fund from them, even though you didn't know about it until recently. I was stunned. You've got to be kidding me. They're desperate, Brian. They're grasping at straws, she said, but this is low, even for them. Then it hit me. They weren't just struggling, they were sinking, and now they were willing to throw me under the bus to save themselves. I'm not going to let them get away with this, I said firmly. Grandma smiled a little sadly. Good. It's about time someone taught them a lesson. I wasn't done being blindsided, though. The next morning, I got a call from a lawyer representing Emma and Jared. I braced myself for a nasty fight, but the lawyer sounded surprisingly apologetic. Mr. Daniels, he said, I wanted to let you know that my clients have decided to withdraw their lawsuit. They'd like to settle the matter privately. Withdraw their claim? Why? There was an awkward pause. Let's just say some new information has come to light regarding their financial situation. I think they realized they were in no position to pursue it legally. I couldn't help but wonder what had happened. Later that day, I heard from Aunt Laura. Apparently, Jared had been fired from his job after someone anonymously reported that he'd been embezzling small amounts of company money. To make matters worse, the bank had rejected their loan application outright, citing credit concerns. Karma had hit them hard, and I hadn't even lifted a finger. A few days after the fiasco with the trust claim, I was still processing everything when Emma texted me, "We need to talk, please." I ignored her. The next day, without warning, she showed up at my apartment. She was pacing outside my building when I got home from work. I sighed but got out of the car. "What do you want, Emma?" I asked, already exhausted. She looked exasperated. "Brian, I didn't know Jared was going to take it this far with the lawyer. I swear I didn't want it to happen." He panicked. "Panicked? You were both perfectly fine trying to screw me over with that trust fund," I said. She looked down at her feet and didn't deny it. "I'm sorry, okay? We've just been under so much pressure. The wedding costs, the house, everything is falling apart. You know whose fault that is, right?" I shot back. "Maybe you wouldn't be in this situation if you hadn't relied on me for so many years." She winced, but then surprisingly said, "You're right." But then she added, "I don't have anyone else to turn to." I stared at her in disbelief. "You don't get it, do you? I'm done. I gave you years of my life, thousands of dollars, and all you did was laugh behind my back. Now you come here and expect me to save you again? Brian, you're my brother," she said quietly. "We're supposed to look out for each other." "Yeah? What was that support when you and Jared made fun of me? When you tried to steal from me?" She didn't have an answer. I shook my head. "Emma, I'm done. This is the last conversation we're going to have about money, or trust funds, or anything else. I don't want anything more to do with you and Jared." Her eyes widened. "You can't just cut me off like that. We're family. Watch me." With that, I walked inside, leaving her standing there. It hurt more than I wanted to admit, but enough was enough. The next day, Grandma called me. She'd heard everything. In our family, nothing stays a secret for long. "Brian, I want you to know something," she said. "I've decided I'm not going to talk to Emma or Jared anymore, at least not for a long time." I was surprised. "Grandma, you don't have to do that for me." "I do," she said firmly. "You've been nothing but good to them, and they tried to betray you. If they don't respect you, they don't respect me. They crossed the line, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise." Hearing that from her meant more to me than I could put into words. A few weeks later, I got another surprise. I ran into Aunt Laura at the grocery store, and she pulled me aside. "Hey, I heard about everything that happened," she said. "I just wanted to tell you that I'm proud of you." "Proud of me?" I asked, confused. "Yeah, you finally stood up for yourself. Emma always had a way of manipulating people, but you didn't let her walk all over you." I shrugged. It wasn't easy, but I couldn't live like that anymore. "Well, you did the right thing. And, by the way, you might want to check in with Grandma. She's making some changes to the trust fund." That caught my attention. "Changes?" Laura grinned. "Let's just say Emma and Jared might not be included in the future plans." Sure enough, when I visited Grandma a few days later, she confirmed it. "I talked to the lawyer," she said. "I've decided that if Emma and Jared can't show responsibility and respect, they won't get their share of the trust. I'm giving them a chance to change, but if they don't, the trust will be divided between you and your cousins instead." I was speechless for a moment. "You don't have to do that, Grandma. I don't want any of the money." "I know," she said, smiling. "That's why you deserve it." After that, I cut off all contact with Emma and Jared. No texts, no calls. I blocked their numbers and stopped dealing with any family drama. Slowly, things started to feel easier. I didn't realize how much of a burden I was carrying until it was finally gone. The real kicker? I heard through the grapevine that Jared had moved out of the house after losing his job. Their relationship was on the rocks, and Emma had to move back in with her mom. I wasn't happy about it, but I couldn't deny the irony.